Hello there, math analyzers. We are in the middle part of chapter 6 and chapter 6 lessons 6 through 9. We're going to talk about the actual parabola and how it relates to all the solving quadratic equations things we've been doing. So, one of the things I dropped when I was talking about the quadratic formula was I dropped this word called the discriminant. Well, the discriminant is the stuff under the radical in the quadratic formula, okay? B squared minus 4AC is the discriminant. And the reason we call it that is because it discriminates between what type of answers we are going to have when solving our quadratic equation, okay? So that's why we call it that. There are 4 types of answers, okay? 4 types of answers. And depending on if we're looking at just a test I've made or we're looking at a Regents exam, they might call them different things. Okay, so I'm going to go with what I call them, and then in the lighter pink is what the Regents would call them. Okay. Okay. Types of roots. Rational, you'll have 2 answers. Irrational, you'll have 2 answers. 0, 1 answer. Or imaginary, 2 answers. Technically, even when you have this one real root, you technically have 2 answers that come out to be the same number. It's because you would end up having a perfect square that's like dots when you get into the t-chart, and the 2 sides are exactly the same, so you end up with 1 actual answer. You've solved it twice, but you have 1 answer as a result. That's what's going on with the one real root here. Okay. So the Regents exam used to call these real, rational, unequal, real, rational, equal. So that's how they're saying the 1, right? Real, irrational, unequal, and imaginary, they're just calling imaginary, but it's 2 separate things. Okay. So it is 2 separate imaginary numbers. Now, how I determine what type of roots I'm going to have is simply by taking the A, the B, and the C from my quadratic equation and plugging them only into B squared minus 4AC, which, as you know, is something you can just do on a graphing calculator. You don't need the full quadratic formula to just determine the type of roots your quadratic will have, okay? So that's what we're going to be doing here. I'm only asking you for types of roots. Now, here are the 4 ways you find your types of roots. If your discriminant is greater than 0, so this is a positive number that's a perfect square, it's 2 rational roots. Okay? If it's a positive number that is also a perfect square, 2 rational roots. If your discriminant is 0, that's 1 root. We call it 1 real root, but it's technically a rational number. It won't be irrational. If your number is positive, but it's not a perfect square, we say 2 irrational roots. And if your number under the radical is at all negative, 2 imaginary. So here's how we do this, okay? And again, you have these notes in front of you, so you have all of this that you can look back on as you do your homework. But also, this is how I ask you, okay? So what I'll do is I'll just give you a quadratic equation, and I'll say, plug it into the discriminant, okay? Determine the nature of the roots using the discriminant. So since we know the discriminant is b squared minus 4ac, all we want to do is make sure our quadratic equation is in standard form, pull the a, the b, and the c, plug them in, and figure out what that number is, and then use this to determine what types of roots it means. So here we go. Standard form, my a is 1, my b is 2, my c is negative 8. So I've got 2 squared minus 4 times 1 times negative 8. And let's just plug that right into the graphing calculator and see what we get. So let's see, 2 squared minus 4 times 1 times negative 8. And I get 36. This is a positive perfect square. Positive perfect square, 2 rational roots. So that's my discriminant. This is the answer to what my discriminant is equal to. And what does it mean the nature of the roots are? That would be 2 rational roots. And this is all I write as my answer. I don't use the Regents exam language, okay, since I'm not a Regents exam course. But if you do go on and take that later, I want you to know what the comparison to that is. And that would be 2 real, rational, unequal roots. Next, standard form. So A is 1, B is -4, and C is +4. Plug those into B squared minus 4AC. So -4 squared minus 4 times 1 times 4. And again, just plug in to your graphing calculator for this. Why not? That's what it's there for. So -4 squared minus 4 times 1 times +4, and we get 0. So that's the answer to my discriminant. My discriminant is equal to 0. What does that mean the type of roots are? When your discriminant equals 0, your answer is 1 real root. Those are the types of roots you'll get. So when I continue using the quadratic formula to solve this and know what my actual roots are, it will be one of them. Okay? Keep going, right? This guy's not in standard form, so subtract that 7 over first. Now that you've got standard form, your A is 1, your B is -3, and your C is -7. Plug that into B squared minus 4AC. So -3 squared minus 4 times 1 times -7. And let's see what we get. And again, go just plug it into your graphing calculator. So -3 squared minus 4 times 1 times -7. And that gives me 37. Now, 37 is a positive number, but it is not a perfect square. So that would lead me to 2 irrational roots. So it's a positive number, but it's a non-perfect square. That's 2 irrational roots are the type of roots or the nature of the roots. Okay. Last but certainly not least, let's subtract this x over to be in the middle. So you get 10x squared minus x in 10x squared, minus x in the middle, plus 9 at the end equals 0. Your A is 10, your B is -1, and your C is 9. Let's plug those in. So you get -1 squared minus 4 times 10 times 9. Oh, let's see what that comes out to be. -1 squared, which we know, of course, is 1, minus 4 times 10 times 9. Well, oh, this is not going to be positive. It's not going to be positive. 1 minus 360 is -359. Well, if you get a negative discriminant at all, I don't care if it's also a perfect square. If this discriminant is negative, your type of roots are 2 imaginary roots. And that is what we are working on our homework tonight. Just figuring out what is the discriminant and what does it mean for the types of roots. Use this right here to help you with that. Okay, that's what I used this whole time. Use those examples. I gave you one of each, okay, that went with one of those 4 situations. Match them up. Let me know if you need anything. but make sure you're practicing plugging those in. Okay, so make sure you're practicing using b squared minus 4ac only to determine what the discriminant value is and what does that mean for the type of roots that you have. All right, guys, good luck. I'll be hearing from you if you need me. Let me know. Bye.